Okay, so before I get the cover off here, right here, I've been waiting on some tools to get my sprocket off, which I'll run another video on. But in the meantime, I figured, well, what the hell, since I'm here, it's pretty much been this whole project. Since I'm here, I might as well do something else that I've been planning on doing. So my rear brake in my rear brake reservoir, where the I got to tighten down these bolts, where the brake fluid goes to run the actual plunger down here. This boot needed to be replaced, and this is how it's supposed to work. You can see it presses in and it covers the entire spring mechanism here, prevents dirt from getting in there and whatnot. Mine was almost completely gone, so I figured, well, what the hell, I'm going to do that. And also, since I was here, I always planned on putting in braided oil lines at some point, and so I put a new braided oil line in here and lengthened it because and then made a new bracket for my reservoir, because my reservoir was my light's not cooperating. My reservoir was sitting down in here, almost on top of my voltage regulator, and it was cockeyed sideways because the hose wasn't long enough. So I made a new bracket and I raised it up high to get it out of the way and create a little bit more room here. I'm not sure what the original bracket looked like on this. It was never really noted. It looked like it was some sort of fab after that, they just sort of slopped things together. Long time ago, I took this, though, this is the voltage regulator, and I lowered the brackets, because the wire on it, which sits right back in here, was really tight on the oil filter. So I raised it up, I braided the line. I could go lower if I want. I've got 2 more slots that I could pull here if I wanted to go lower, but I probably won't. I'll leave it right there. It's enough out of the way. It's nice and high, and it's given me a pretty nice braided line. I also, in a couple of spots, because braided is steel wrapped, basically hose, I shrink wrapped a few pieces here so it won't rub the paint nor rub the chrome bare. So this part is pretty much done. I may have to bleed the brakes at some point, but the next thing I'm going to do is press in the hub bearing. By the way, should have noted, in the background, I'm finally listening to Outlaw. In the background is Ryan Bingham. You know him from Yellowstone, the series that has caused quite a bit of debate, and you can read about that on my Substack. This is the next thing that's going to come off. There's a huge socket that rolls right over this thing and then runs on a little, I don't know what you would call it, bearing, race, to keep the socket straight so I can get this nut off. And as soon as I pull that off, I'm probably gonna have to do something with the rear wheel here to get it off and pull the rear wheel forward, something like that, to give it some slack to get the belt off. And then the big heavy work really begins, to be quite honest with you. So anyway, Ryan Bingham, love him. Okay, this is the hub here. Well, the hub is going to be pressed into it, but this is where the bearing's got to be pressed into, and this is kind of an art. So this is kind of it's a little tight maybe, but it fits perfectly. And if that doesn't work, I'll do this one. It's a little looser. We'll press it into this has been in the refrigerator, freezer actually, all morning. So one thing we do is we use science. Cold shrinks metal, heat expands metal. So This is a little bit smaller by thousandths of an inch, and this will help press it in. And sorry about Jason Isbell in the 400 unit, former band member for the Drive-By Truckers on the music, by the way. Okay, here we go. So that's pretty much it right here. And the snap ring goes in here, and that goes in next. So snap ring looks pretty much just like this. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get them in, but that goes in, and then you flip it over and you put in the hub. The hub goes in here. So I'm gonna have to wait though until tomorrow. So I want the hub to heat, the bearing to heat up, and then I can snap in the rest of the hub. And then there's a little snap ring like this guy here. It goes around this and keeps it in. And then when you're pressing the hub in like that, you have to have something else, probably the same thing I press this in with. I'll put here on the bottom, hold it up, hold the bearing in, and then we press in the hub. That's pretty much it. That's going to be it for today probably. So there we go. Now this is a hell of a way to start a weekend. The rear caliper was frozen, so this was supposedly just done, but this bolt right here went in here, and it was stripped out. It's a Torx bolt. Those Torx bolts are notorious pieces of crap for stripping out. So I had to take a wire wheel, and you can see I did damage to my caliper here, which is the only way to get it out. I tried everything. Heat. I tried drilling a slot. That's how I started this, drilling a slot in this so I could get a screwdriver in there, and also put a wrench on a screwdriver. If you have one of those screwdrivers, they're very handy. Nothing would make it budge. Stuck a drag link in it to in the slot here, the cap bolt. Nothing moved it until I started grinding it down, and the only way to grind it down was getting in there. And you can see here that it must have been somehow stuck to the lip here. So that lip is gone. I'm probably gonna have to replace this whole damn thing. But that's not the worst of it. The brakes were supposedly changed, and they were almost all gone. So it's a good thing I got this damn thing off. Before you get that off, though, of course, you have to hold the brake. Here's my pulley nut is off now, so I can grab this, and oh, there it is. Move it. So that way I can get at the main bearing that's behind it. But what a crappy way to start a day. Okay, so this outer box is ready to come out, and I've kind of banked on it a little bit with brass drift. It's kind of in there, and there we go. My rear brake here is kind of holding it up a little bit, but this is kind of the moment of truth. Just what I need to do is replace my brake line, you know, which is a solid line, by the way. It's not a hose. There we go. Somewhat. And there we go. Your transmission is out. I'll pick this up so you can see it. Gears are in good shape. There we go. This is the hardest part. And I finally reached now the halfway mark. Right here. Right here. I'm spinning it kind of. That's the 5th gear. And that sucker is pressed in. I've got to get it out. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet. But this is the transmission assembly. And this here's the shifter fork, and these are the shifter forks here, which I've labeled 1, 2, and 3. They've got to go in the right way. God knows if I'll be able to do that correctly. But here you can see where the shifter forks sit. This is the first one. Moves this baby right here. Second one sits here. It moves this guy. And the last one sits here, right on that these little grooves here. So this is all got to come off. This right here is the shaft that has been destroyed, and that is going to be replaced. So we're, you know, we're halfway through. What can you do? But damn, gears look good for 80, 90,000 miles on it, to be quite honest with you. These look really good. I'm not seeing anything here of any concern, which is actually quite nice. Let me go on the other side here for you. This is this one holds on the shifter cam that I showed over there. It sits right in there. And I've had to label it just to make sure if I get punchy, I don't put it on wrong. Bearings look good on those too, so I'm not going to have to replace it. The shifter looks decent, but I'm going to need to measure it here. There's, what you do is you take a caliper and you measure from here to the center gear, which is, I believe it's that guy, right? Yeah. It's this guy right here. Has to be within a specific distance. If it's out of that, then believe it or not, the whole damn thing's got to be replaced, I think. However, I don't see any problems with the shifter cam, to be honest with you. Shifters sit inside these grooves here, and that's what moves them, so you can shift gears. So one last thing, so I took off the outer. This is where the clutch sits in that push rod, and if you'll notice here, when you move the clutch in, it moves up. And how does it do that? Well, it's got 3 ball bearings in there, and these ball bearings move up here these little inclines, and that pushes on the clutch on the other side, which engages the clutch and it spins, so you can shift gears, allowing the cam here, the transmission here, to sort of float, so you can shift these babies back and forth, if you know what I mean. All right, so onward and upward. Now the hard part begins, believe it or not. Getting everything back together, getting the new cam in, and then hopefully getting the shifters in the right spot. These gears have to go back in the right order, and they've got to come off, and they just slide off, so it's not that big of, hopefully, knock on wood, that big of a deal. It's too bad this cam went, because it's really in good shape for 90,000 miles. If not for this end right here that scored, and the key, if you remember, was hollowed out, thus necessitating the replacement of the whole damn thing. So good clean fun on a windy day right before the rain comes. And it's finally, we had a warm day, 75 today, and then we're going to drop back into the 30s. So there we go.